someone might say, but Allah is al-muhyi wa Allah huwa al-mumit. True. And bi'idhnillah, with the permission of Allah, Jesus was granted the ability to bring the dead back to life. Bi'idhnillah, Moses was granted the ability to split the sea and the stick turned into a snake in his hands. Bi'idhnillah. Bi'idhnillah, by the permission of Allah, the fire could not burn Ibrahim. These are known as miracles and karamat. Likewise, the Ahlul Bayt also have miracles and karamat. And of that is bi'idhnillah, Allah can give them special knowledge. Does that mean they look into the future? No, not in that way. As in, like, we watch a lot of different popular culture TV shows and movies where someone can like look into the future. That's so Raven, and these ideas that I can see what's about to happen. That's not how it is. The idea is he is a man who is walking through life the way you're walking through life, but he has a special ability that if he requested from Allah to know something that was to happen in the future, Allah would grant him that knowledge with the permission of Allah. Likewise, Allah may give him that prophecy without him requesting. He may give him that knowledge through dreams or through ilham in the heart or through guidance. So Allah may give him knowledge, may show him, or if the Prophet or Imam wants, they can gain that knowledge. But there are differences of opinions as to what limits are there for the knowledge of the Imams. But generally speaking, yes, the Imam or the Prophet can know about, can know about, this is how I would say it, they can know about what is in the future. So if Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz has all of knowledge on it, the Imam, that's the tablet of the preserved tablet that represents all of knowledge, then the Imam, can he see that preserved tablet? Bi'idhnillah, yes he can. Bi'idhnillah. So no one says, because the other side would say, this is ghulu. How can a human being have the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's not the case. We're not saying that. Once again, Allah is the muhyi wa mumit. Allah gave that ability bi'idhnillah to Isa. When I say bi'idhnillah, it means by the permission of Allah to Isa. Bi'idhnillah, he can grant life and death, power to Isa. He can grant knowledge to Imam Ali. Bi'idhnillah. And these are in the Quran. There's no problem. Alhamdulillah. Yes, sir. You're the next one. You're the next one. Alaikum salam.
You mentioned at the start. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. You mentioned at the start Asalat al-Wajud and then Wahdat al-Wujud, and then you mentioned Mullah Sadra. My question is, isn't Irfan like a continuation of Ibn Arabi's legacy? Like, isn't what we're saying in the Hawza, like Ayatollah Hassan Zadeh Amali, he says that other than existence, there is nothing. It runs the order of the universe in his book, Ma'rifatun Nafs. Isn't that the same as what Ibn Arabi is saying? So don't we agree with that? That's my question.
I would say, isn't what Ibn Arabi said the same as what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, I'm not using him as the reference though. There was something before Ibn Arabi.
Yeah.
These ideas, so has Ibn Arabi influenced some of these scholars? Yes. Were there influences on Ibn Arabi? Yes. Did these concepts exist before him? Yes. Was he a popular one? Yes. You see, so the idea is I'm not using Ibn Arabi as a reference point.
Yeah.
I would say he has a big influence, but I'm not using him as a reference point. I would say, if someone, so Ibn Sina came first, for example. So if Ibn Arabi says something, does that mean he took it from Ibn Sina? If Ibn Sina says 2 + 2 = 4, and Ibn Arabi says 2 + 2 = 4, does that mean that he took it from Ibn Sina?
Yeah.
I mean, it's intellectual proof. If they're saying existence, there's nothing else, that's based on intellect. As in, they say al-wujud is wujud. It's badihi. It's self-evident. You can't describe it with anything else. And there are no limits to it. So then that's asala, exact, etc., etc. That is all logical thinking. So if I'm going by the intellect, do I say I learned this from Ibn Arabi, or that this is in line with the evidence? I'm looking at the evidence. Let me not look at the person. Forget people. Forget names.
Yeah.
I want to look at evidence. Does this ayah mean this? For example, there's an ayah in the Quran where Ibn Arabi says that the Kaaba is the heart and Tawaf is the all this kind of stuff, and there's no proof for it. So that's tafsir bil ra'i. That's something he brought up with his own mind. So I don't take. But if Ibn Arabi says 2 + 2 = 4, do I not take because he's Ibn Arabi? If it's intellectual proof. But what I'm trying to say is, I would rearrange the question. I would say, no, Ayatollah Zadi Amuli is not saying what he says as much as Ibn Arabi is saying what Ayatollah Zadi Amuli is saying, just that he came later on chronologically.
Yeah. Truth is one.
Truth is one.
Yeah. So just on that point, last question, I promise.
You're holding that mic like that, you're not letting it go.
Yeah. So you've studied into comparative religion, and you've mentioned Sayyid Hussain Nasr as well. He's a proponent of the traditional school, the perennial philosophy. What are your thoughts on that? And the renegade on his teacher, Frisbee of Shuan. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm going to give you a quick answer because I know most people here don't know about perennialism. But what I will say is, I believe in one truth. And I believe this deen is the path to that truth. And I believe Muhammad Rasulullah wa alih, haqq. Just to explain to everyone, the idea is, let's say there was a mountain and there are different paths. And they say, so this is why I want you to be careful from even the man I mentioned, Sayyid Hussain Nasr, because he is of the perennialist thought, which I say you must be careful of. He's an Ithna Ashari, but he believes ultimately you can attain salvation through other religions. So he will say that the mountain has many paths. And we all walk different paths, but we all reach the end of the mountain at the end of the day. Okay? So I don't believe that, no. I believe you can walk a path and you'll reach somewhere. But if you don't accept the wilayah of Rasulullah wa Ahlul Bayt, you cannot reach that station. And so this is what I will say. I'll tell you how Allama Tabatabai responds. And I like this. He says, truth is one. And there are different interpretations today of who claims they have the truth. And as Muslims, ultimately, we claim to have the highest notion of the truth. Because you cannot say, I have the truth, unless you are Imam Ma'asum. So, unless there's an Imam Ma'asum right there, and he gives me hukum waqa'i from Allah, this is what Allah wants, I can't take anything as 100% Islam. But what we have right now of the Quran and Ahlul Bayt is the closest interpretation of the truth that we have come to as a human civilization. So this is what I believe in. So I follow Islam as a path. The truth, Allah knows the truth. I'm not obnoxious enough to say I know the truth. But I believe Rasulullah haq, I believe As-Sirat haq, I believe Al-Quran haq. I believe these. I follow these. And I follow the interpretations of my marja'. And by the way, I'm not saying anything crazy here. All your marja' believe in the same thing. No marja' tells you this is what Allah wants. He tells you hukum zahiri. And he tells you ahwat wujuban. If he's so sure it's 100%, why ahwat wujuban? You can go to marja' after me. Because he's telling you this is my interpretation. But does that mean that we don't have the truth? Or we're just following interpretations? No, it doesn't mean that. It means without the Imam Ma'asum or a prophet from Allah, you cannot say Allah said 1, 2, 3, 100%. You can say according to what we have of hadiths, and many of them were burned, but according to what we still have, this seems to be the closest idea to what Allah wants from me. But do I have thawabit and 100% principles in my deen? Yeah, like what? Like I said, Quran is haq, Salat is haq, Siyam is haq, these things are haq. So let me do what I'm 100% about. And for the little things that have some gray zones in them, I can research. But ultimately, I'm still on a path. And who said you're supposed to know everything? Who said that's how it's supposed to be? But ultimately, if another path does not have Ahlul Bayt and Quran, then I believe there's a lot missing from there. Does that mean these other people did not have in the beginning of their traditions an actual prophet? No, it doesn't mean that. I'm of the opinion actually that it's very likely Buddha was a prophet. I don't have proof of that. But I can see 10% of, I believe, India or China, were Buddhists. Millions and millions of people influenced by this one man. And there were 124,000 prophets. And his story really resembles the story of Nabi Khidr in the narrations. Or you say the guide Khidr if he's not a Nabi? And his color is green, like his is green, and his symbol is the leaf, like his is the leaf, and there are a lot of similarities. Maybe. I can say maybe. It's immature for anyone to come and start telling you this is this and this is this. It's immature. That's why I find it strange when a young 20-year-old comes and says, you're going to hell for this. I'm like, come on, man. That's ridiculous. Be serious. No one can come and say these things. But what I will say is, it's an interesting topic. I'm of the belief, and I serve my whole life towards this being haqq, this being the path. I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will judge people based on what they know, but that doesn't mean that it's haqq. It doesn't mean that it's true. You can do your best with what you know, but it doesn't mean it's haqq. Ultimately, there are stations in the afterlife. I believe Allah huwa wadud wa rahman. I believe not a lot of people will go to hell, inshallah. But I also believe they won't attain the highest levels of salvation either. And I want to be with Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So I'm going to follow his path as much as I can. I believe that's the highest level of Jannah. So that's the path I will follow. So I don't believe in we're all going to end up at the same in the mountain. No, I believe this path is what takes you. This is the path of salvation. But it's a path that you shouldn't be closed in a box. And there's a whole world out there. That's why I'm saying you have to speak with a universal tongue. There's a whole world out there. When you mix with other people, other cultures, other religions, you realize how vast the world is. It's not just your culture and small practices. Thank you. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is a bit of a personal one. You know, alhamdulillah, growing up as a Muslim in a Shia household, you know, I have the love of Ahlul Bayt in my heart, but obviously I've had my fair share of moments where I've questioned my own deen and my own Shiism and, you know, the way that works. I wanted to ask you, what was that moment for you that you thought, you know, other religions aside, other sectors aside, Shiaism is the only way and is the truth?
Thank you for that. There's a hadith that I always find amusing. When a man comes to Imam Rida alayhi salam, he's a Jewish man, and he says, how come you and your followers can marry a Jewish woman and you can marry a Christian woman, but we can't marry a Muslim woman? So Imam Rida alayhi salam responds and he says, we believe in Abraham and Moses. As Muslims, they are our leaders and prophets. So we can marry a Jewish woman. We have the same leader. And we believe in Nabi Isa alayhi salam as leader and prophet for us. So we have the same leader as Christian woman, and we can marry a Christian woman. When you believe in Muhammad Rasulullah, you can marry a Muslim woman. The path of Islam, first of all, before Tashayyu', the path of Islam is a path that accepts all those different prophets as one river of truth. That Adam was on the same path as Ibrahim, same path as Nuh, same path as Musa and Isa, and all the other prophets from Dawood and Sulaiman and Yaqub and Yusuf and Ismail and all those other prophets, that this is all one message, the same Allah, one message. And it came down, and Rasulullah is the final prophet along the same message. What I don't appreciate about the Jews is that they closed off after Moses, so they don't accept Jesus. They don't accept Jesus to be a special man. And the Christians take Jesus but don't accept Rasulullah. The Muslims accept Jesus and Moses and Abraham. And there must be a message. So I'll take you all the way back to us even. How come? Is there a God or no God? If we can prove there's a God, and why this God brought me into this world, and is there a message? What is the message? Does He have messengers? And I start to go through them, and I see that the message is one, and I come to His final messenger and the final revelation. I believe in something called Islam. When I believe in Islam, okay, so now let me get into the content of this Islam. And is it finished here? This is the one Tashayyu' comes in, with historical, and as long as you're a Muslim, that is. So I would be speaking differently to a non-Muslim. I would have to begin with Allah. But if I'm speaking to just a Muslim, in between Shia, Sunni, I would say, no problem, just what is the Islam that you believe in? The type of Islam you believe in. Because for me, it doesn't make sense to stop with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi, because I just left my family in Lebanon. When I left, I put loads of different plans in place to make sure that if my wife or daughter needed anything, it was ready. And I'm only gone for a few weeks. If Rasulullah is supposed to be coming with a message that is from all the prophets from the very beginning, and with the Quran, and this whole message, 23 years, is preserving it, I would think he has a plan, an insurance policy, that when he's no longer here, the message carries on. Just logically speaking, yani. If I don't go to work, I'm going to have my manager or someone fill in for me. So I don't believe that it's logical that he would just leave. And he didn't. He didn't. Again and again and again and again and again and again. He said, Ali, 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 everywhere. This is not a Shi'i thing. This is in all the books of all traditions. No one compares. If you want to call Ali ibn Abi Talib a Sahaba, no one compares as a Sahaba in virtue to him, as acknowledged by Sunni ulama, as acknowledged by them. But we go further than this and we say it's not just Sahaba and it's not just a political issue. Because they say, hey, Shi'i, relax. 1400 years, it happened. It shouldn't have happened. Okay, he should have been first. He was fourth. But why are you still upset? I'd say, I'm not upset about the political dispute. I believe it's part of deen. It's religious. Allah chose him to be the imam. And he's the imam whether I like it or not. Whether people voted for him or not. Whether he was khalifa or not, he remains the imam. It's part of religion. And so it continues in this way. That I see this person represents the successor of the revelation. The successor of the one who guards the revelation. The continuer of the teaching. For me, it came with growth. Now, personally speaking, it came with growth. That as long as you are sincere, and really that's my advice to you, my sister. As long as you're sincere and you ask Allah to keep your heart open and you're searching, Allah will show you the way. But with that sincerity, some doubts, they occur in order for you to use questions so you can have greater certainty. I had many doubts growing up about different things, but doubts not in a way where I'm in a crisis. Doubts like I don't know the answer. Sometimes I'm not ready for the answer. So I am humble. I must be humble. I must wait for the answer. That comes with growth. I don't understand this right now. Maybe I'll understand it in a couple of years when it comes with growth and experience. And that's what happened. Through experience and growth, it happened. And I became, I had a lot more strength of conviction when it came to the words of the Ahlul Bayt, when it came to the logical proofs. And so, actually, it makes no sense for me, personally. Islam without Ahlul Bayt makes no sense for me. It's like, what do I do now, yani? If there's no Ahlul Bayt, what do I do now? That means no du'as, yeah? No du'as. All those du'as are from Ahlul Bayt. So all those beautiful du'as that you are inclined to, what's your favorite du'a? Du'a ahad. Subhanallah. Okay. Now imagine an Islam without du'a ahad. Not good. And that's about the 12th Imam, not even Imam Ali. Like you went straight for number 12. That'd take a lot more proof there. Okay, so for example, look what you love in your religion. It's not even of the ideas of the other sect. That imagine an Islam without that. It's the flavor that Ahlul Bayt provides in Islam gives it so much fruit, gives it so much spirituality, gives it so much proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I can't imagine these du'as. I don't know how I would comprehend Tawheed without them, without the words of Ahlul Bayt. It doesn't make sense for me. I think there is enough to galvanize like one Lord, one Kaaba, one Quran, one Prophet. There's enough to bring you to a certain sense of Islam. But then that final push where I fall in love, I cannot feel that without Ahlul Bayt. And I have a whole different understanding of who the Prophet is because of that. A whole different source of authority about what happened in history and what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to live. And I can go on about this. I can make a whole lecture about this right now, to be honest. But really, I couldn't be more convinced that Saraha, if there was Islam without Ahlul Bayt, I don't really want it. Okay? My pleasure. My man. Watch this be the deepest question of the whole day. They always ask me the deepest ones.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How did God get his powers?
a spider bit him. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Wallah, it's always the case. Wallah. Last time the kid was asking me, what does it mean to be, I was a hidden treasure, I wanted to be found. I was like, what? He's 9 years old. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a very, very deep question that you asked. So deep. And I hope you continue to think like this. When we grow up, we stop thinking like this. Where did Allah get his powers from? So, obviously, you're asking that question because if I, right now, gain something from somewhere, someone must have given it to me. Because there was a time when I didn't have it. And now I do. So if there was a time I didn't have something, and now I do, that means someone gave it to me, right? Okay. So then someone gave you this, someone gave you this, someone gave you this. For example, there was a time when you weren't even here and then you were born. So then who gave Allah his powers? Well, I would respond like this. There was never a time when Allah did not have his powers. For me, there was a time I didn't have my powers and someone gave them to me. I don't have any powers, but at least, let's say knowledge. There was a time I didn't have my knowledge. Someone gave me this knowledge. Allah always had knowledge. He is before time. Time is a creation for him. Allah always had power. There was never a time that Allah didn't have power for someone to give it to him. So he is a being that exists within himself. The difference between Allah and me is I was born. Allah wasn't born. Allah always was. He makes me born. So as a creation, there are differences between me and Allah. I'm someone who gets from him. I receive. Allah doesn't receive anything. Allah has everything already. And the reason why it's hard for us to imagine is because we think of him as a man, but he's not a man. Allah is before the before and after the after. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is before time even. And because we think always about time, we think, what was he doing before he made us? This is before. Before time. He wasn't just sitting down to create us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the beginning created. Before the beginning created. He is the one who must be in order for everything else to be. And let me give you a small example, okay, that is easy to understand. Let's say I said, I'm not going to stand up until you stand up. You won't stand up until you stand up. You won't stand up until you stand up. You won't stand up until he stands up. Does anyone end up standing up? No. There has to be, and this brother here. No one ends up standing up because the first mover didn't stand up. There must be someone who stands up that doesn't wait for someone else to stand up. Someone must stand up that's not reliant on another. That first mover stands up when he wants. The reason why I say he has to be is because we're here, aren't we? We all stood up. We're here. There must be someone who brought us here. And that someone who brought us here already had all of his powers within him before everything happened. Okay, any more sisters? Yes. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Yes.
Hello. Okay. So I have been listening to your lectures as well, and you were actually discovered by my son. So he's listening to your lecture. I was also at the Masjid Ahl Baz when you came last year. So I'm a bit surprised that you got that response from that speech.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fully understood your point there. My question to you is that we are living in this culture where we have Jews, Christians, and every religion is telling their youth, and you are telling our youth that you are the best. You are on the right path. So what advice do you give?
Me? You talking about me?
No, sorry. I'm asking you, what advice do you give to our youth in Australia?
Okay.
When they are interacting with other followers of other religion, like Judaism, like Christians, who are telling them That every religion tells them, if we had a rabbi here,
Oh,
the rabbi would tell, you are the most favored nation. Jews are the most favored nation of Allah.
right.
So how at 16 or 17 or 18 years old understand the differences and stay on the right path and maintain his faith and do not fluctuate? The daughter mentioned here, she had her moments.
Yes.
It is very easy, for us to be biased when we are born in Shia household. So we are Shia because we were born in Shia household, or I personally want that we want to be Shia because we understand Shiaism. And this is something our children are struggling with, because they see that our scholars come to mosque and they are biased. They give a biased speech because they are born in they follow just one certain religion. That's what they are preaching. So in order to make them understand or see the haqq, what advice would you give to them? Thank you.
Thank you. Is your son here?
Yes.
Where is he? Put your hand up. Why are you troubling your mama, man? Come sit right here. No, Ahsan. Okay, very good. You look like a big 13-year-old though, man. Just did I? I'm sorry. Should have been a comedian. طيب, inshallah. Thank you, sister, for the question. I hope you can understand my answer. I'm going to say something, but I don't want you to think it's a simplistic answer. I don't think it's simplistic. My first answer will be the following. What's wrong with being biased in a congregation of rituals and a place where I'm going to preach to my people? I'm here speaking to people that believe in the same thing. Now, if I'm going to university, I won't be biased. Someone has to know where he is and read the room. So if I'm speaking to my professor, I'm not going to tell them what Rasulullah said and the Quran said, because they don't believe in the Quran and Rasulullah, so I won't be biased. I will use intellectual evidence. But if I'm in the masjid, I'm expecting to speak to Muslims. So I don't have to prove that Allah exists. I'm going to tell you straight away the Quran says. Because as far as I know, you believe in the Quran, so it's binding upon you. Now, if you don't believe in the Quran, we can have that conversation. So this is important. This doesn't mean that one is simplistic. My daughter is 2 years old. She's watching Latmiya, she's doing this. I want her to do that. Why? I'm going to explain in a moment. I want to raise my daughter up loving Sayyidah Zahra. I want to raise my daughter up in the majalis from young. Am I being biased? Hell yeah, I'm being biased. She's not making her own decision about this. So am I doing something wrong? No, because the way you teach religion in the beginning is through family and community. That's how you teach religion, not based on proof. I'm not sitting with my daughter and I say, the first contingent existent and the wajib al-wujud, and she say, gaga gugu. So I need to explain, I need to show her, Mama and Baba, we love each other. We love Allah and we love you. And we love you because Allah is so good to us. Look what Allah gave us, food. And Imam Ali, we love him, Eid al-Ghadir, because he's our master. Imam Hussain, Haram, something happened to him. This is what happened. She cries for him. Then when she grows up, right now, my earliest memories are sitting next to my mother in Latmiya. Her decorating, right now in Majalis, every year she does Majalis in her house. I sent her a message yesterday. She put on her status the Majalis, and I sent her. Mother's a simple woman, my mother. She left when school when she was in year 5. She's a simple woman. She just knows Abu Abdullah. She cries. She loves Ahlul Bayt. But she raised me to love Imam Ali like my hero. She raised me like that. So now I always message her. I say, today, Mama, I did this because of you. You raised me. She doesn't know books. She doesn't know all these different topics. She doesn't know about the Quran and the tafsir. And she raised me, and I say, everything I do, it goes back to you. Because you raised me to love Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. There is a poem that says, may Allah bless my mother and my father. The way they raised me with the love of Al-Amir, and the way she nourished me with the milk of the love of the Amir. That it's in our veins and our blood and our flesh. When I became of a mature age, I started to ask questions. Now I became intellectual. Now she set me out into the world. Now I'm asking, I go through doubts, I have moments. But deep in my heart, I always go back to the place my mother raised me in. Not because I'm comfortable there, because it was, for me, growing up, I saw the truth of the matter when I went out into the world and I saw all the other isms. And like I told you, I studied comparative religions. So I'm the most unbiased, probably, scholar you're going to find. I studied Buddhism in the Buddhist monastery itself in Taiwan. I spent a whole summer there. So I've studied these different religions and I've sat with all these professors, and I tell you, there is nothing that they could ever say, wallah, in all of our discussions and debates that compares to the word of Muhammad wa al-Muhammad. And someone can say, you're so biased because you're saying that yourself. I'll tell you, when I was in Taiwan, I was in a room with a man named Nick. He came from Germany. He didn't believe in anything. He was looking for spirituality. He came to Buddhism. And they put him in a room with me, haram. So we're in a room, and then all our discussions were about Karbala and Imam Hussain and Rasulullah and Quran. He would tell me, when you wake up in the morning and you start singing, I was doing Fajr prayer. He said, when you start singing, please sing with a loud voice. I like when you sing. And when I would read Dua Qubayn, I'm crying. Why are you crying? I say, I'm speaking to God. What? You're speaking to God? Wow, what's going on? What are you saying? What's he saying? What are you saying? I sat them down. They said, we respect the fact that you came. I was the first Muslim they ever met, all of them, all those monks. All those monks, the first and only Muslim in the whole city. And I was very proud. And I could sit down and discuss with anyone, anything. Because my religion has those gems. I'm not making it up. It's not because I'm confident. I have the gems. And he asked me about what I was saying. I taught him. He said, can I pray with you? I said, sure you can. He said, he prayed with me. He told me, I left everything. I came to Taiwan thinking I was going to find Buddhism. I didn't know I'd find Islam. SubhanAllah, he goes to China and ends up in a room with an Islamic scholar. And SubhanAllah, how fate can work. The idea is, I'm not even talking about shame. Forget shame. That's not even on my radar. I'm talking about confident to be able to speak to anyone on the principles in my deen. This is not bias. I'm using intellect, and I'm using based on principles that they have too. A lot of the time, you can find common ground. And if you're interested, read Common Ground Between Buddhism and Islam by Reza Shah Kazemi. It's an awesome book. And when I read that book, it helped me a lot when I went to Taiwan and China. I think that this is why a scholar of the tradition should also be academically endowed. And he should know about universities and texts and be able to transverse. But please, don't base Islam on the scholar. Like I said, a lot of the time, the turban doesn't mean anything. And the cloak doesn't mean anything. That person, if he's qualified, sure, but what does Islam say? Let me find a better scholar. And YouTube now is full of amazing scholars in different languages. Amazing scholars, not popular speakers, not someone who can tell an entertaining story, but amazing scholars who are academically and philosophically endowed. They understand what the different ideas are in the history of the world. So they can navigate through all of those. And I think when young people see scholars that know about these topics, so when young people come to me and they tell me about this scholar or that scholar, or what he's saying or that he's saying, a Jewish rabbi or a Christian priest or whoever it is, I'm happy to debate anyone. And I'm happy to sit down and go through the text and discuss. It doesn't have to be an ego battle. I'm happy to discuss anything with anyone. I have that much confidence in this path, and I'm not even a master of the tradition. I'm a 12-year-old baby in the tradition. My teachers are the masters. When I tell you my teachers, the men of knowledge that I know, these walking encyclopedias, my God, they are so impressive. So it's sad that the level that we're used to over here is not very high, but that's not what Islam should be based on. But I shouldn't say that I'm coming to the mosque, this guy's biased, he's speaking his religion. Why are we coming to the mosque then? If you want to speak about other religions, we can have an event and speak about other religions. There's no issue. We can do that. But I understand the point. The point is, he's saying these people are preaching to the choir. Who are they trying to prove what to? They already believe. Yeah, I know, but this is not about proving anything. We're here just to be reminded. We're reminding, فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَ, reminding and trying to seek proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the beginning of one's life, it's based on community and family and love, and you always go back to that. And that's why a lot of the time, a lot of the brothers that leave the path, or sisters that leave the path, is because they are individually damaged from something that happened to them in their life. a bad mother or father or sibling or event, there's no sense of community in their tashayyu', so they move to a community like the Sunni community, who is a much stronger and wider and bigger community that can provide a sense of brotherhood that this community could not provide. But it was not about proof, it was about feeling at home and belonging. And human beings, we tend to go towards a place that feels good and comfortable for us. But this is not about comfort. And that's why I would say, I said to the brothers the other day, I know if I was the last man in my path alive, I always think of this myself. If I lost all my teachers and all my brothers and all the other scholars, would I remain? Or am I just doing this because I feel strong because of who I have next to me? And I constantly meditate upon that in order to remain, so that I believe in this truly in my heart, that I'm willing to die for it. That's no longer doing it because I'm comfortable. I'll tell you, I'm not very comfortable. That's why I said in the session, stop believing it in the Hussainiyat. Hospitals, prisons, universities, schools, in the public. You have to have the strength of conviction to be able to navigate these waters. And this exists. We have this. You have to be qualified enough to do this. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, don't look at men to know the truth. Know the truth, find the truth, and you'll know it's men. So this is the advice that I would give. Okay. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'm asking him if it qualifies. Was that a good answer? Is that all right? All right. Alhamdulillah.
Sayyid, we did promise two of our brothers that they'll be asking a question.
I'm
There's
happy
one
to
sitting there
continue.
and one there.
To continue, no
I
problem.
haven't forgotten. So
yes.
with the time that we've got, you sort of work out the time how you.
I'm
want
happy
it,
to
but,
continue.
The sisters done. So yeah, we'll begin with. And also, just before you start, we have the FPOS machine going around. So look,
So
any
we
contribution, inshallah.
So we have two more questions, yeah?
From the brother's side. Oh,
Yes, sir.
Third one just there. You can work. Yeah. That's, inshallah.
Okay, then after that, no more?
Inshallah. Khair. Salawat Muhammad ala Muhammad. And one more. Yep, no, it's all good.
Or just pray Salat al-Layl here.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa
I
rahmatullah.
just wanted to build on your last question. And when you said that it's an individual effort of how we stay within the community and learn lessons from it, and a lot of time people leave the religion and move to the fold of, let's say, Sunnism because of the brotherhood that they provide. At an individual level, I know that it's up to oneself to learn for themselves. But how do I, as a person, engage with someone who's leaving the fold of the religion due to certain cultural practices that they were exposed to?
You have to find the reason, the real reason. So you can't try to guide someone in one way, all people in the same way. You can't come and say, this is the truth because 1, 2, 3. So for example, when the sister spoke about her moments, I asked her what her favorite dua is, because it's an individual journey. And a lot of the time, you have different types of people. So I found that the sister was a spiritually inclined person, and she would be guided through a dua more than she would be guided through an intellectual proof. So I can speak about intellectual proofs all day, but all I have to say is dua ahad, and that means something to her. You have sometimes people that are going to be attracted through dua. Other people are not at all. It doesn't mean anything to them. They want pure intellectual evidence or pure textual evidence. So you have to know the type of person you're speaking to, and you have to know who they are and their history and the real reason that they are in the place that they are in. A lot of the time it's because they are damaged or need some healing, and they are taking it out on religion as a manifestation of their pain. And they can't handle that because for whatever reason, someone religious hurt them, or someone who should have represented religion, like their mother and father when they were younger, who is their God as a child, was not good to them. So they grow up not really being a fan of God and authority. There are several different reasons. Someone may have been abused in all different kinds of ways, and they don't feel that if the God was good and he was there, this wouldn't have happened to me. So, looking at the disasters of the world, someone might say the disasters and the earthquakes and how can God allow this? So that's an intellectual thing. So it depends on who you're talking to and the real reason. And that means you have to really get into their lives. I would say just stay away from what is forbidden. So just the limitation of culture is what is forbidden. I think it's important to know where cultural practices come from, so that you can discern if you want to take part in that or not. And I think there are some limitations, even when something is not forbidden. Like, you have to know about where it comes from. So I was saying the other day, I know that a lot of our communities, they like to bring in, for example, a horse on the 10th day of Ashura, and they do ziyarah of the horse. And sometimes they say the horse is a descendant of Zul Janah, and they might even put a turban on the horse. I've seen this, yani. So this is something that I would question. Yeah, just where does this come from? Who said this horse is a Sayyid horse? And why am I touching it? And there's barakah in the horse, yani? Or where? Why must there be an animal? And where does this come from? Is there a cultural background to this? I'd have to question that. So I would want to be wary about everything I'm taking part in. Okay. There was another question from a brother. Yes, sir. Well, the brother's going to take the mic now, so.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I've got a couple of quick questions. One with regards to...
One question, my man.
Okay.
Haram, there's lots of people.
Okay, just one. Okay, with regards to the creation, so we know that Hazrat Adam al-Islam was the first that Allah created. And we actually find in history that Hazrat Ibrahim al-Islam was around 5,000 years back. And then maybe if you dated back, Hazrat Adam al-Islam might be maybe 10,000 or 15,000, 20,000 years ago or something like that. But we see historical evidences here in Australia as well, like Aboriginal. We have, they've discovered people, skeletons, like carbon dating back to 40,000 years as well. So my question is that, what do you reckon? Is Hazrat Adam alayhi salam the first creation, or like Ashraful Makhluqat that Allah created? Or were there other beings before him as well that weren't Ashraful Makhluqat, and then he was the first Ashraful Makhluqat? So that was my
Thank you, Habibi.
question.
So we have narrations that say قبل آدم ألف آدم. So before your Adam there were 1,000 Adams. And this doesn't mean the same Adam, it means other creatures. That Adam as an insan, the father of us, and we are considered in scientific terms Homo sapiens. But were there other beings on earth scientifically that were not Homo sapiens, that resembled Homo sapiens? Yes, they were. There were Neanderthals and all the other Homo type of creatures that existed. And there's no issue with that. In Islamic texts, we have the Nasnas that were creatures that the angels knew about. So when Allah created Adam, the angel said, Ya Allah, are you going to create this creature? There was another creature that created bloodshed. Allah said, I know what you don't know. This one is different. And so Adam was created directly, and we are the descendants of Adam. But were there other creatures? Yeah, there are. There are jinn, and there are angels, and there are other physical creatures too. And some of them resemble the way a human being looks like, but did not have the aql as well as the free will that the human being had. So there's no problem. And we also don't know the exact timeline of the prophets. So we can't say 5 or 10,000, like you said, 20,000 maybe. But there's no problem when we find fossil fuels, or when we find fossils of beings that resemble human beings, they're not actually Homo sapien though. Like you'll find they're not Homo sapien skeletons. And if they are, no problem, then they are descendants, and then Adam was before them. Okay? The sister. Alaikum salam.
Inshallah, you're doing well. It's good to see you here in Australia.
Are you Zahra?
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
I got married to an Aussie.
Oh my gosh, she's from Toronto. Oh my God. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. So my question might be a bit controversial. So, like during like Ashura Day, we read Ziyarat Ashura where we do Lanat on Muawiyah and Umar and them. But like I've noticed, like in when we, they have Ashura walk, Arba'in walk, like in the city, in loudspeakers they'll do like Lanat and curse and on Umar and Abu Bakr. And I was just wondering, like, what's your opinion on that? Like, yeah.
So
Thank you.
obviously, if I'm speaking in the tongue of trying to be a mainstream ideology and deen, and we're speaking to everyone in the world, and we're showing tashayyu' in a way that Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam is proud of his men and women, then I need to also respect my boundaries with others publicly at the very least. So I would say this: if you want to do la'na, and your marja allows you to do la'na on specific individuals, of course we have tabarra from the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, la'natullah ala a'da Ahlul Bayt, no problem. But if you want to do that publicly in the face of someone who really respects these people, that doesn't understand the context of what you're saying, and it feels to him as if someone's coming to you and swearing at Imam Ali alayhi salam, then you're not speaking with a mind and tongue of logic anymore, and you're not really going to attract them. And I think it's very egotistical, provocative, and it's something that is not for Islam. It's more for self-satisfaction. It's not out of love of Ahlul Bayt, because you can do la'na in private if you want. Why do you have to go and do that? And plus, you're protected by the police. But if you go to Afghanistan and Kabul, you're not protected by police. And if you go to Pakistan, you're not protected by police. So people should respect that. So I think this is not only an issue here, it's an issue everywhere. And according to some maraji', they've even made that haram. So I don't condone it. I have to emphasize, la'natullah ala a'da Ahl al-Bayt. So I do la'na too. I'm not against la'na or tabarra from the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. I emphasize that so no one calls me a Bakri or a Batri or whatever they call me. You know, Yasir Habib calls people like that Batri. You guys know Yasir Habib? Yasir Habib. So he's like the father of this. But we as a religion that respects itself, we're not of that path. We are looking at the greater mission, greater context, especially at a time like this with Palestine. And so Islamic unity is a principle that we need to uphold. It's very important, Islamic unity. So as much as we can, that means we don't provoke their personalities in front of them. Yeah.
MashaAllah, now we're just running towards the end. Will be the last question.
Was it you or who was it?
No, from my brother there. He's been waiting very patiently. And then
Okay.
maybe within 5 minutes.
No, I was the first one to raise my hand, and unfortunately got the opportunity to ask the question in the last. So it does happen.
Yeah, Habibi.
Now, interestingly, I think the sister upstairs asked slightly similar question, but my question was more on the ideological front. So, like, Shiism has always been targeted and attacked physically as well as ideologically. But I think in these days, physical damage is not there. Even if it's there, the impact is quite restricted. But the implications of ideological attack is far-reaching, and it's damaging the generations. So there are a lot of attacks that are happening, but one of the attacks is quite related to the sister's question, and that's my question. So there's a faction that's spreading that concept, generally in the younger generation, that we should only talk about the good deeds of Ahlul Bayt in the majalis, in every other sessions, and let's not call somebody wrong. So basically, the concept is that they are trying to infiltrate, saying that we should not do tabarra. Whereas, alhamdulillah, I am 51 years old, and my foundations are strong. But the reason I'm asking this question is more to present a platform for the younger kids to understand the reason why it's necessary to call a wrong a wrong. Like, even if you look at the kalma, it starts from La ilaha. The God doesn't say Allah is one, He says there is no God. So everything starts from negating the wrong. But I think if you could elaborate on that question in terms of why it's necessary to do tabarra, and why not just talk about the good things of Ahlul Bayt? Why do you have to say that Umar did this, Abu Bakr did this, and this is what happened? What's the reason behind it?
Sure. So when it comes to truth, when you want to claim truth, you also must negate falsehood. In our tradition, we are taught al-amr bil ma'ruf wal nahi anil munkar. So first of all, the Islamic teaching is this, that it's not enough to say what is true, you must also forbid what is evil, to enjoin good and forbid evil. And these two are always together. It's not enough just to enjoin good. Forbidding evil is the hard part. That's usually the part that people are uncomfortable with. But that's an important part because it means you have to make a stand. Making a stand is not always comfortable for people. But in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Ali went to war in the Battle of Jamal against another army of Muslims. And in that army were some companions and the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now people were very confused at that time. Who are we going to be with? Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, who is the Khalifa, or the wife of the Prophet? Some people joined the wife of the Prophet. Some joined Imam Ali. And others didn't get involved. And Imam Ali alayhi salam blamed those who didn't get involved. So they went with him. He blamed them. How could you not be involved? There was a path of haqq and you weren't involved. You want to stay out of it, but that's also serving the interests of the path that is not on the path of truth. So we constantly have to call or realize within our own ideology, aqidah, reading of history, that if this happened, it also means this happened. So if I believe that such people killed Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam, then I cannot at the same time love those people and love Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. I either love the person who killed her, if I know about the history that is, or I love her and I despise the person who killed her. And that is a very natural, logical reading of history. As long as I understand the context of that history, because a lot of people don't know about that. Like people of the other path and denominations don't know about the context of that history. So we can't say to them, you don't love Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. They don't understand that. But it's important as someone who claims to be a follower of the Ahlul Bayt to say, Silmun liman salamakum, harbun liman harabakum. Not only when it comes to Ahlul Bayt, I'd say if you're a loyal companion, you would say the same thing to your loyal companion. And for me personally, for example, if I have a close friend who has an enemy, that's my enemy now. That's my close friend. I will never be seen dining with that enemy. If he's hurt my friend, I'm never going to cozy up to him. That's just my friend, out of loyalty to my friend. But how about loyalty to my master? It's just very logical. I don't think it needs a great amount of elaboration in order to understand that tabarra is part and parcel of the wilaya of the Ahlul Bayt. Okay, I think we'll call it a day, inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Thank you very much.